Tim Flannery. He is Chief Counsellor of the Climate Council, one of Australia's leading climate change communications organisations. He joins us live from Sydney. Good to have you with us.
Thanks very much, Rosemary.
So the UN Security Council meeting to discuss climate change and the threat it poses, disagreed on how to respond though. Lots of talk, so little action. Why can't they figure that out? And what do you think needs to be done?
Well, look, the fact that it's before the Security Council, this issue is before the Security Council, is very telling, because climate change is the great threat multiplier. It will, through challenging food security, water security, as we heard, fires and so forth, it multiplies all of the threats we face. Therefore, the Security Council is the right level to be dealing with it. But what we need to do is what we did here in Australia with the COVID pandemic. You stop the spread of the problem, right? So with COVID, that meant lockdown. For climate change, it means stopping the emissions, or to cut the emissions, as you said, 7% per year. You then need to make sure you've got enough emergency capacity to deal with all the problems that are going to happen. That's a role for government, to make sure that people are prepared. And third, we've got to search for a vaccine. And that vaccine is going to be a mixture of drawdown, restoring natural ecosystems that Sir David Attenborough's talked about, and treating our oceans better.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to do, but there's a sense that it doesn't matter what we do. We heard from David Attenborough there, it's almost too late.
No, it's not too late. It would have been far better and far easier had we started 10 years ago back in Copenhagen when we were first trying to broker a deal. But every year you let this go, the problem gets worse. So it's too late, yes, to avoid some consequences, but we still have time to act to avoid a full catastrophe. So we must start now with that threefold approach.
You mentioned the United States has rejoined the Paris Climate Agreement. Does that give you hope that more will get done with the force of the superpower there?
Look, I think that the world has taken great hope from that. We know John Kerry, we know his determination and his skills. We know President Biden, and I think there is great faith that team together can really achieve what's needed. But it's not going to be easy. It's going to take a very sharp focus and a deep commitment, not just by the United States, but by the rest of the world.
Why do you think there is so much reluctance on the part of many world leaders to respond to the threat of climate change? Donald Trump, perhaps the most stark example of a leader, a former leader now, of course, but at the time, with his withdrawal from the Paris Climate Accord, that don't believe, or they're not on board with this, or they don't see it as an imminent threat.
Well, look, we are moving from one world to another, and the old world was formed by fossil fuels and their use, the political power balance. The economy was deeply influenced by the fossil fuel industry, and we're now moving into a different world. And as we started that transition, initially it set up a sort of a win-lose world. There was a fear that people would lose out as we moved to the new energy economy. But over the last couple of years, that's really changed. And part of the reason the US is really leading so wholeheartedly on this is that they can see that this is now a win-win for them, that they can actually make that transition and build a better economy and a more prosperous and stable economy than they had previously. So it is that old world view versus the new world view, battling it out in real time in this climate struggle.
Tim Flannery, many thanks. Good to talk with you.
Thanks so much, Rosemary.